Hello, doodads and dudettes. It's Patrick here with another video, and this time we're going to be talking about AppleTalk.
Say, kids, what time is it?
It's 8-bit doodads time!
To start off, we're going to do a little short mail call video, if you will. Something I got in the mail in the last week, and it relates to a project that I've been wanting to do with AppleTalk in my home network. So why don't we open it up? And wow, they sealed this box well. I saw this on eBay a couple weeks ago, and I decided to go for it. And this is a PhoneNet PC card, sealed, new in box, and that was the reason. And it was $10, so I had to go for it. The reason I did this is I have a lot of Apple II, 2E, 2GS, as well as original Macintoshes in my home, and I wanted to network them together with the original network that Apple designed, which is called AppleTalk. This card allows you to add a PC into that network. It so happens I actually have one of those cards. I don't know if it's a PhoneNet PC card. It's a similar card. It's an AppleTalk card for a PC using the original bus on a IBM PC, which would also fit in AT and anything with those original black slots. And that's a connector to connect it to the network. Reason I purchased this thing is, again, it was sealed, but I believe it comes with the software, and I'm hoping it has the connector kit in it as well. To start, we should probably explain what AppleTalk is and how it came to be in existence, what its original purpose was for, and how it kind of got extended out. So, let's first take a look at the original machine. This is a Macintosh SE, which is like the third generation of the Macintosh. There was the Mac, then the Mac Plus, and then the SE. But they all shared a common trait. And I'm going to turn it over on the back side, where all the ports were. And when the camera, hopefully it'll come into focus in a second. On the back side, there are ports for the keyboard, mouse, disk drives, and a SCSI port, but there's also a couple couple communication ports. And actually, see, there's a phone icon and a printer icon. These are serial ports if you're plugging directly into a modem or a printer, but they can act as AppleTalk ports. And the biggest reason, the business reason why AppleTalk took off was that you could connect a series of these machines together using AppleTalk. And the reason you wanted to do that was because Apple came out with a very expensive, at the time, laser printer. It was about $3,000, that also had AppleTalk built in, and you could have multiple Macs all sharing that one printer. And that was a boom, because that didn't exist for a lot of other PCs unless you had a full-on network and file server and everything else. And AppleTalk allowed you to do that. Once they came out with that, they continued to expand the line and add some other features. I'm going to put that away. On their next version of the Apple II, which was the Apple II GS, as you can see on the back, they did the same thing. They have monitor ports and disk drive ports, and here's the printer and modem ports, and these are AppleTalk ports as well. So this machine could coexist on the same network as the Macintosh. And in fact, they even went back to earlier machines, the Apple IIe, and came out with this, which is an Apple Workstation card, which gives you those same two ports. As I said, the original business benefit of doing this was so you could share that expensive laser printer. At the same time, Apple had a line of dot matrix printers, and one of those dot matrix printers, they developed an AppleTalk option, which is in this box, which you could stick into that Apple dot matrix printer, and it added an AppleTalk port, and that allowed you to share that printer among Apple IIs and the Macintosh. So you could have multiple laser printers, multiple dot matrix printers shared by a whole lot of machines. This was really great in classrooms where you could have a bunch of Apple IIs or Macintoshes sharing one printer. It was also great in businesses where you might have 3 or 4 Macs wanting to share that expensive laser printer. Now, Apple didn't stop there. The AppleTalk network was the networking layer that allowed machines to talk to each other. They had the printing services, but they also came up with what they call Apple File Protocol, which allowed machines to share files. And you could have an Apple Share file server, which could have been that first Mac I showed you with a hard disk, and that hard disk could be shared among other Macs. Now, truth be told, AppleTalk is a very slow network. This card, as all fancy it is with all the chips, the speed of this is about the same speed you get from a floppy drive. So while you could share a bunch of machines connected to a hard drive, you didn't get the kind of network speeds we saw from other networking options at the time. However, since it was built into the Macs and built into the 2GS, it was relatively cheap. And in fact, all you needed to do was there were AppleTalk dongles that connected to it. They looked something like this that would plug in here. Whoop, if I can get it right. There we go. And then you'd run cables, and there were 2 ports on these, and you'd run cables to the next machine and to the previous machine. And so you could daisy chain all the machines, and Apple sold cables that were in, 3 foot, 6 foot, 15 foot, 25 foot lengths. The problem with it is the cables looked exactly like this. And in fact, I have one of those cables here, which you can see is a very thick cable with 8 pins, and they were expensive. Luckily, a company and PhoneNet, Farallon, and with their PhoneNet connectors came out with a cheaper solution. And that was these dongles that looked like the AppleTalk ones, but they used standard telephone wiring. And all you had to do was run telephone cables between the connectors, and these could plug into each of the machines. And again, you had the daisy chain. The only thing that was different with this is you had to terminate the 2 ends so it knew where the end of the wire was. And they supplied you with a couple of these anytime you bought their connectors. One of the things you'll notice about the workstation card and the more modern Macs and the Apple IIgs is they use this connector. But there were earlier machines, and I believe the Mac and Mac Plus used the same connector that's on here, which is a DB9, which also, by the way, is on the Apple Lisa. And there is a way to make a Lisa, if it's running the Mac OS, connect to the network. And that is using another one of those connect AppleTalk local connector kits. It has a DB9, and that it can plug into this same network. So that's how I will connect up this board. And as I said earlier, I'm hoping this one has one of those in it so I can connect two machines. Now, all the Macs up until all the Motorola Macs, and in fact, some of the first PowerPC Macs had these ports on them, and they can share in an AppleTalk network. And as I said, you can share files. One of the boons that some people have done is they want to share files, but they want to share it with modern PCs. Again, one way is using one of these cards, but you have to have an old PC to do it. There is a way to bridge AppleTalk networking to the modern world. Here you see that same PhoneNet connector kit, and this box is an AppleTalk to Ethernet adapter. And this allows you to make an AppleTalk network interact with what's called EtherTalk, which is AppleTalk or Apple Filing Protocol over Ethernet. And it can share with machines that are connected on Ethernet. And this is a way to bridge these very, very old machines with sort of the middle ground. And one of the holy grails for people with those old machines and they're trying to share AppleTalk is they want to put up a file server where they can put files that all of these machines can share. And so how do you put up an Apple Share file server? Again, you can go back to the original Mac with a hard drive, but now you're limited to a 20 meg hard drive or a 30 meg or whatever is in these. Or you can set up a standalone Apple Share file server. And one of the great ways to do that is with something like this, which is a Raspberry Pi that's running, I want to call it Pi Share, that I may have the name wrong. But here you have an Ethernet port. There's a version of Debian Linux that runs on top of this with an SD card, and it runs the Apple Share, AppleTalk File Share, Apple Filing Protocol, is what they call it, and can be shared by all those Apple IIs, by a PC running with that card, with the 8-bit card, by Macintoshes, and it allows you to transfer files back and forth between all these old systems just using a Raspberry Pi. In a future video, I'm going to show setting up all of these different components one at a time, getting the printer sharing going, using my Local Talk kit for an image writer 2. And once we have multiple computers talking to that, then we'll move on to the Apple File Share, and then we'll move on to the Raspberry Pi. So stay tuned for future videos. If you like what you've seen, click the like button, and also take a look at us on 8bitdoodads.com, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.